This is the new exhibit they just replaced with from the off-road gallery. They just reopened this. As everybody knows, I am the co-founder, national club president, and international club president of the Yarmouth Riders Motorcycle Club, as well as the co-founder, national club vice president, and international club vice president of the PJGRP Motorcycle Club, as well as a former Harley Davidson employee. My family's worked for Harley Davidson for over 100 years, since at least 1917. The company was founded in 1903, but my family's worked there since at least 1917 with the founders. This picture's pretty cool. I like that. It's a nice thing. But seeing this here, art and engineering at Harley Davidson, these are all the motorcycles that suck. The 2020 Livewire. This is one of the biggest pieces of shit that Harley Davidson's ever made. And I can say that because I used to work for Harley Davidson building motorcycles and engines. And a few years ago, there was a story on television of a man who bought a Livewire from Harley Davidson, and he took it out to Sturgis like 2 weeks after he got it, and the battery shorted out, and his whole bike started on fire, and it was basically a $20,000 waste. The sad thing too is, here's the thing that people aren't thinking about with electric vehicles, is while the government's trying to tell you that they're safer for the environment and we need to get away from gas and this and that, we don't have all the power to run all these electric vehicles. That's why California has all these blackouts and brownouts and grid overloads. And even the people who work at the power companies said we don't have all the power and electricity to run all this stuff. Plus, what people aren't thinking about, and given the fact I am also a retired, decorated first lieutenant who served with the United States Air Force, CAP, Emergency Services, Search and Rescue, people aren't thinking about the state of the world that we're in today, where they're constantly talking about nuclear war. Well, what happens with nuclear war and nuclear weapons when you set off EMP, which is an electromagnetic pulse? Electromagnetic pulse shorts out everything electronic, which means your new $20,000 Harley Davidson or more is now nothing more than a paperweight if an EMP were to go off. And you don't even need a nuclear weapon to make an EMP go off. China's actually got one that can melt the US grid, they said in Newsweek 3 years ago. This is another big piece of shit that we made at Harley Davidson. Wasn't popular from the start. As a matter of fact, the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration actually had Harley recall these the first year they came out because the seats weren't bolted on and passengers were getting thrown. So there's a little history for you. Some of this exhibit we like and some of this exhibit we don't like. This is actually pretty cool. I think Harley Davidson needs to go back to their original engineering roots. And this is when Harley Davidson actually took pride in their company, unlike today. When I worked at Harley Davidson, I used to build engines, I used to inspect them with quality control, and we had gotten a new supervisor there at one time, and I repeatedly reported to him about all the dents in the rocker tops and imperfections that were coming through. And you know what he told me? He told me, just send it out anyway. Nobody's going to see it. It's going to be hidden under the gas tank. And of course I wouldn't. I refused to. I told him right out if he wanted to send them out, he could scan his ID, his work ID, and do it, because I wasn't going to have it come back on me. Plus, I won't send out inferior products. And sadly, that's what Harley Davidson is today. There's all kinds of damage and stuff, and I mean, I even got pictures of damaged stuff from when I worked there. Pictures and videos of when I worked on the line inspecting the stuff, and conversations with my supervisor on how they said just send it out anyway, even though it's damaged. And of course I wouldn't. That's how Harley Davidson is today. I love the brand, but it's not the same company it was founded as. It's not the same company that I originally worked for. It's not the same company that my ancestors worked for. Now this here is nice, I will say this, 1949 here, Hydroglide. I have to be truthful and honest, and Harley Davidson doesn't like that, but I really don't care. First Amendment of the Constitution, freedom of speech. Plus, the Federal Trade Commission fined Harley Davidson more than $200,000 a couple years ago for violations when it came to them refusing to honor warranties with people taking them to outside licensed mechanics. Around 2009, Harley Davidson had to borrow more than $300 million from Warren Buffett to stay afloat. I mean, some of this stuff is cool, but some of it, people really need to know the history of it. And as a person who's worked for a company where my family members worked over 100 years ago, and for the last 100 years, for 4 generations, I have to be honest, I really do. This is pretty cool, I like this. As a motorcycle rider myself, I look out for what the customer really wants. This, I'll tell you right here, this is a piece of shit. Wouldn't buy it. Piece of shit. This is nice. I like that. We also had a lot of CVOs when I worked there. We had a lot of oil pumps on the CVOs that were coming back because they're malfunctioning.
Ooh, what's this? Station 2. Go wide. Oh, I did. Where is the paper? What's it gonna be the paper?
How they sculpt it with clay. Like I said, the live wire sucks. I rode one, wasn't impressed. At the time we were making these engines, around the time 700 of us lost our jobs because the company decided to downsize. This was codenamed LaMotta at the time. They had LaMotta, they had the Bronx, and they had the Street Fighter. All codenamed. Wasn't impressed with this engine at that time either. The sad thing too about Harley is a lot of times they'll send out damaged engines and they know they're damaged and they will send them to be put on bikes anyway, because then they just roll the whole bike out to the dump and have it crushed. And what they do is, instead of taking the engine as like a $5,000 loss, because they put it on the bike, they count the whole bike as like a $30,000 loss in order for Harley Davidson to fuck over the IRS on taxes. And that's something my supervisor Stefan Jadlicka told me, and my former manager Leanne. I have to say the best motorcycle that Harley's made in a long time, other than the Heritage, is this right here. It's a reproduction of the Hydroglide. It's a 2024 Hydroglide Revival.